Maybe this video will be the reset you need to finally break free from the cycle of negative thinking that's been running your life. Because here's what I want you to realize: those negative thoughts aren't actually the problem, they are just the symptom. They're pointing to something much deeper that's been creating your reality from behind the scenes. And if you came here thinking I'm going to give you some affirmation to repeat or some technique to suppress your negative thoughts, that's not what this is about. That's not what actually works. And that's not what I'm about. What I'm going to show you today is how to identify what's really creating those negative thoughts, how to release it at the root, and how to finally break the cycle once and for all. Not by fighting your thoughts, not by trying to control them, and not by trying to stop them completely. All of that just feeds them more power. What I'm going to show you is how to win the battle and understanding what they're actually showing you about your programming. If you're new here, hello, I am your Muse Traci. On this channel, I teach you how to finally get out of your own way and stop struggling to create the life you know you're meant to live. One of the most powerful shifts I help my clients make is moving from trying to control their thoughts to understanding what those thoughts are showing them. Because once you understand that, everything starts to change. First, let's talk about what's actually happening when you're stuck in a cycle of negative thinking. You wake up and almost immediately the thoughts start. Maybe it's worry about money. Maybe it's anxiety about your specific person. Maybe it's doubt about whether any of this manifestation stuff actually works, if reality is actually going to change, or if you're just kidding yourself. And those thoughts feel so real, so urgent, so true that you believe them. And before you know it, you're headed down the spiral of negative thinking. You identify with them. You think they're telling you something important about you and your reality. But here's what's actually happening. And this is going to shift everything once you understand it. Those negative thoughts aren't the truth of what's actually happening in your reality or showing you what's actually true. Those thoughts are showing you what's running in your programming, what beliefs you're holding, what identity you're operating from. And what I teach is knowing that you don't have to believe every thought that pops into your mind. You actually have a choice. Think of it this way: your consciousness is a projector. Your programming, your subconscious beliefs, is the film. And your reality, including your thoughts, is what gets projected onto the screen. So when you're having negative thoughts, that's not the problem. The actual problem is the film that's playing in the projector, the programming that's creating the thoughts. And here's where most people get stuck. They try to change the screen. They try to fight the thoughts, suppress them, replace them with positive thoughts, affirm over them, while still believing them to be actually true, rather than seeing them for what they truly are, which is just the programming. But you can't change what's on the screen by attacking the screen. You change the film in the projector. You have to change the programming. The cycle works like this: your programming creates a meaning, the meaning creates a feeling, the feeling creates a thought that matches the feeling. Those thoughts reinforce the feeling. That feeling gets reflected in your 3D reality. Your 3D reality reinforces the programming, and the cycles continue on and on and on and on until you take control. So you might have programming from childhood that says, I'm not safe. That programming creates meanings with situations and circumstances you encounter, and that meaning creates a feeling of anxiety. That feeling of anxiety generates thousands of worried thoughts throughout the day. Those worried thoughts keep you in an anxious state. That anxious state gets mirrored in your 3D reality, more situations that feel unsafe. And that reality confirms your original programming. See, I knew I wasn't safe. and the loop continues over and over and over again. Now, I want you to think about your own negative thoughts for a moment. What patterns keep showing up? What worries, what doubts, what fears keep repeating? Just notice them because those recurring thoughts are showing you what's running in your programming. They're not random, they're showing you more of you. So, before I show you what actually does work, let me tell you what doesn't work because most people are stuck in one of these three approaches and they keep themselves trapped in the cycle. Path one. This is the path of suppression. This is when you try to push the negative thoughts down. You try to ignore them, deny them, just pretend they're not there. Maybe you tell yourself, don't think about that, or I'm not going to focus on that negative thought, or you immediately try to flip to a positive thought the moment a negative one appears. But here's the problem: what you resist persists. What you suppressed doesn't disappear, it just goes deeper underground. It stays in your programming, creating feelings and thoughts from the depths of your unconscious. And eventually it comes bursting to the surface, maybe as anxiety, maybe as a breakdown, maybe as your 3D reality, showing you exactly what you've been trying to suppress. Suppression doesn't work, it just delays the inevitable. Path two, expression. This is when you feel the negative thoughts and you act on them. You vent, you complain, you spiral, you let the thoughts take over, and you become identified with them. You might think you're releasing them by talking about them, by expressing them, but what you're actually doing is reinforcing them. You're reliving the story. You're strengthening the neural pathways. You're making the programming more solid. Expression without awareness doesn't release the feeling, it loops it. You're not letting it go, you're rehearsing it. And the more you rehearse it, the more it becomes your identity. Path three, escapism. This is when you try to distract yourself from negative thoughts. Maybe you stay busy, maybe you scroll social media, maybe you binge Netflix, maybe you throw yourself into work or helping others or constantly chasing the next goal. And on the surface, it might look productive. It might even look like you're doing well. But underneath, you're just avoiding the feeling that's creating the thoughts. And that feeling is still there, still running, still creating. Just because you're not looking at it doesn't mean it's not shaping your reality. Escapism gives you temporary relief, but it doesn't actually resolve anything. I see this with my clients all the time. They come to me frustrated because they're doing all the techniques, affirming, visualizing, living in the it, but they still have these intrusive negative thoughts that won't go away. And when we dig deeper, I find that they're using one of these three approaches. They're either suppressing the thoughts, expressing them, or trying to escape from them. But they're never actually addressing the root cause. None of that actually changes the programming, creating the thoughts. So the cycle continues, the struggle continues, and they wonder why nothing really changes all that much. The same negative thoughts keep showing up in different forms, and they keep wondering why their reality isn't changing. So here's what actually works. And this is going to sound counterintuitive at first, but stay with me here. The way to win over your negative thoughts once and for all is not to fight them, not to suppress them, not to try to replace them. I know, sounds counterintuitive, right? None of that works. What works is to understand what the thoughts are showing you and surrender to the feeling underneath them. Now, when I say surrender, I don't mean give up. I don't mean accept defeat. I mean something very specific that I learned from Dr. David Hawkins and his book, Letting Go, The Pathway to Surrender. What surrender actually means is allowing the feeling to be there without trying to change it, without trying to fix it, without trying to make it mean something about you or your reality. Here's why this works. Remember, your negative thoughts are coming from a suppressed feeling, and that feeling is enmeshed in and entangled in the programming. So, if you want to change the thoughts, you have to release the feeling. If you want to release the feeling, you have to stop resisting it. The feeling is not the enemy. The feeling is actually trying to show you where your programming is out of alignment with your truth. Because your emotions are guidance, remember? Your true nature is whole, complete, abundant, loved, safe, worthy. That's who you actually are underneath all the false layers of programming, as I like to call it. But somewhere along the way, usually in childhood, you took on beliefs that contradict that truth, that cover up and mask that truth. Things like, I'm not safe, I'm not enough, I'm not lovable, I have to earn my worth. And none of that is real and true. And believing those things creates feelings. Feelings like anxiety, unworthiness, lack, fear. And those feelings are still there, running in the background, creating thousands of thoughts that match the feeling. So when a negative thought comes up, it's actually your system's way of showing you, hey, there's a false belief here. There's programming that needs to be looked at, that needs to be, you need to decide, do you still want to keep this idea around? The thought is just the messenger. And if you fight the messenger, if you suppress it or try to escape from it, you miss the message. You're missing your own internal guidance. I had a client who was constantly spiraling with negative thoughts about her specific person. Every day, multiple times a day, she would have thoughts like, he's never coming back. He's with someone else. I'm not good enough for him. I won't be chosen. And she thought she was doing the right thing by trying to flip those thoughts. She would affirm over them. She would try to think positive thoughts instead. She would distract herself with, all the techniques, everything you can think of. But the thoughts kept coming back over and over and over. And she was, as you can imagine, getting exhausted by flipping the thoughts and changing the thoughts and trying to win over her negative thoughts. But she never actually felt like she was winning. And when we started working together, I said to her, stop fighting the thoughts. Stop just flipping the thoughts. Let's look at the programming and the feeling that is creating them in the first place, right? They're coming from somewhere. And when she dropped into her body and actually felt what was underneath the thoughts, she realized I was feeling unworthy. There was a deep belief that she wasn't enough and that she had to earn love and that she was fundamentally unlovable. And those beliefs had been there since childhood, and it was creating the anxious feeling. And that anxious feeling was generating thousands of negative thoughts about her specific person. So we worked on recognizing the programming and releasing those stuck and suppressed emotions, not by fighting them, not by suppressing them, but by surrendering to them, by letting it be there without trying to change the feelings, just holding the feeling. That's really all it is. Here's what happened as she recognized the programming and started to change it. As she worked on releasing those old feelings, processing the emotions that were never properly processed, the negative thoughts started to dissolve on their own. They lost their power. They stopped feeling so urgent, so real, so true. The feeling that was fueling them was no longer there. We tackled this at the source. And once the feeling was released, her entire state changed. She stopped being anxious. She stopped checking. She stopped needing him to validate her and to choose her because she knew that she was already worthy and already chosen. And within weeks, he reached out, not because she affirmed more. No, because she understood what was creating the old pattern and she did the correct work to release it. She was no longer in the illusion of being a victim of her own projections. So let me show you exactly how to do this, how to surrender to the feeling underneath your negative thoughts. Step one, you have to notice the feeling, not the thought. Pay attention to how you feel first. Get sensitive to your negative feelings. This is the start of using them as guidance. You have to be aware without judgment, without thinking something is going wrong. Just notice. And then ask, what was I just thinking? What was the meaning or story that I was just indulging in? Because that's what is creating this feeling. Don't try to analyze it or figure out why you're thinking it or whether it's true. Don't get trapped into the thought. Instead, drop into your body and ask, what am I feeling right now? Where is this feeling located? Is it in your chest, in your stomach, in your throat? What does it feel like? Is it heavy, tight, anxious? Don't label it as good or bad. Just feel it and allow it to be there. Step two, let it be there. This is the surrender part. Once you've identified the feeling, let it be there. Don't try to change it. Don't try to fix it. Don't cover it up with affirmations or techniques. Don't try to run away from it. Just let it exist. Like how the ocean just allows a wave to pass through. You're not the wave, you're the ocean. And the wave is just moving through you. The feeling is not you. It's just a sensation created by old programming. And when you stop resisting it, when you let it be there without trying to control it, something magical happens. It starts to dissolve and dissipate and leave all on its own. Step three, stay with it. Sometimes the feeling will pass really quickly. Sometimes it takes a few minutes. Sometimes it comes in waves. You'll feel it, it'll fade, and then it'll come back around again. That's okay. Again, we're not judging. You're just honoring what's already there and allowing it fully. That just means there's more to release if it's coming back again and again. You've been carrying this programming for years, maybe decades. It may not disappear, in a single moment. But every time you surrender to the feeling without resisting it, you're releasing a layer of the programming. You're undoing the false belief. You're returning to more of your actual truth. Step four, trust the process. Here's what's important to understand. One feeling can contain thousands of thoughts. So when you release the feeling, you're releasing all the thoughts that were attached to it. You're not fighting thoughts one by one. You're releasing them in bulk at the root. And as you do this practice consistently, as you surrender to the feelings instead of resisting them, your programming starts to change. The false beliefs start to dissolve, and the thoughts that were created by those beliefs naturally fall away. You don't have to fight them. They just lose their power because the fuel source is gone. Now, I'll be honest with you, the first few times you do this, your ego is going to resist and resist big time. It's going to tell you, this isn't working. How could this work anyway? It's going to tell you all the reasons you shouldn't do it. It's going to try to pull you back into the old story of, the old thoughts, because the ego is invested in protecting the very thing that you're trying to dismantle, the programming. The ego thinks you need those false beliefs in order to stay safe and in order to survive. And when you start releasing them, the ego feels threatened and it will not go down without a fight. It will fight you. It will tell you you need to do something else, anything else. You need to affirm, you need to visualize, you need to fix this feeling. But again, that's just the ego trying to keep you trapped in the old pattern. The actual shift happens when you do nothing, when you just surrender, when you let the feeling be there and trust that it will dissolve all on its own. What actually changes when you start doing this practice consistently? First, the negative thoughts lose their grip. They stop feeling so urgent, so real, so heavy. They might still show up occasionally, but they don't have the same power over you. It's almost like you feel a sense of separation from the thought where you used to be identified with the negative thoughts. Second, your state changes. You feel lighter, more at peace, more present because you're not carrying around all the suppressed, stagnant emotion anymore. Third, your reality starts to shift because you're no longer creating from the programming that was generating the negative thoughts to begin with. You're creating from a clearer, more aligned place. When you release the programming, when you let go of the false beliefs, your entire energetic system changes. And people are always responding to your energy over everything else, over what you say and what you do. It's always the energy that people are actually responding to. You might be wondering, how long does this take? How many times do I have to do this before the negative thoughts stop? And here's what I want you to know. It's not about reaching some perfect state where you never have another negative thought. It's about changing your relationship to the thoughts and learning how to listen, to honor and process your emotions rather than ignoring and suppressing them. As you practice surrendering, you'll get better at it. It'll get easier. You'll catch yourself faster. You'll be able to release feelings more easily. And over time, the programming that was creating the negative thoughts will dissolve. This is a practice. It's not a one time fix. You're literally unwinding years, maybe decades of conditioning. So be patient with yourself. Here's what I want you to take away from this video. You don't have to fight with your negative thoughts. Again, like I said in the beginning, that actually feeds them more power. You don't have to suppress them or escape from them or try to replace them with positive thoughts. You just have to understand what they're showing you and then surrender to the feeling underneath them, because the feeling and the programming go hand in hand. They live side by side. And when you release the feeling, you also release the programming. And when you release the programming, the thoughts dissolve all on their own. This is how you win over your negative thoughts once and for all. It's not by fighting them, it's by understanding and releasing them at the root. Most people will watch this and think, yeah, makes sense, but they won't actually practice it. They'll go right back to fighting their thoughts, suppressing them, trying to affirm over them, and they'll stay stuck in this cycle, in this perpetual cycle. But you're not most people if you're watching this. You're here because you're ready to do the actual work, the deep work, the work that actually frees you and empowers you to create everything you want to experience in your life. If you're ready to go deeper, if you want my help in identifying and releasing the programming that's been creating your negative thoughts and negative patterns, then I invite you to work with me in my coaching program. This is where we do the deeper work together. We identify the false beliefs creating your negative thoughts. We release the feelings attached to those beliefs. We rewrite the programming so you're creating from your truth instead of from fear and limitation. If you're interested to learn more, there's a link in the description. Click the link, it'll take you to my website where you can read more about the program. If you still have questions about the program or about working with me, there's a link in the pinned comment. You can click that link and book a free consultation with me. Thank you all so much for watching this one. I'll see you in the next video.